The biggest thing you gave me was time.
I've always been a proponent of do the job, do it well.
When you're a family, everyone in the family has to be treated with respect.
I couldn't have done this without you. Coming here to K-State, you've been my confidant and in the room with me.
I want to know who you really are, right? You could put whatever you want on paper, but that doesn't really matter.
Greatest teachers, they meet the learner wherever he is.
They don't care what you know.
Until they know how much you care.
Be aggressive. Let's win. Here we go.
Here we are again in beautiful Costa Rica. And I just want to say thank you for your viewership on the podcast. We've been doing Winners Win and Leaders Lead with Van Malone for the last 4 to 5 years. We've had head coaches in college and the NFL. We've had conference commissioners. We've had athletic directors. We've had people in the business realm. And all of those efforts were to benefit you. Thank you for supporting us, and we look forward to the next opportunity to get together.
When you look to put people on your bus, put people in your organization, what are the things, and you're talking about from a coaching standpoint, but even your support personnel, what are the things you look for that let you know this person is a fit to be around my players, to be in an organization that I'm in charge of?
Well, this is a great question. This is really, really big for me. I think a lot of people make a lot of mistakes in hiring. And we make a lot of mistakes, you end up firing a lot of people. And I didn't want to fire people, so I took my time. I always took my time when I was hiring somebody. Because I say what the head coach is really, really responsible for, more than anything else, is the environment. Right? We're responsible for the environment. The environment is a result of who's in the environment.
Yeah. Right.
You're hiring adults. You're not going to change adults drastically. They're going to be who they are. So you have to find people, and this is 2 things for me, basically: personality fit and philosophy fit. Huge, really huge. So when I'm hiring coaches in particular, I like to not just have a one-on-one interview. We do that. But more importantly, I would have a staff interview to where I ask the first couple of questions and get them up on, look at the film that they brought. And then I want the staff to ask them questions, to really talk philosophy and teaching progressions and all those things and seeing if they fit. But sometimes more importantly, I want to see personality-wise, is there a fit here? Right? We're going to work long hours in intense, very intense situations. If we don't get along, on a February, Saturday morning, we really not going to get along when the heat is on and our jobs are on the line.
Right.
So as much as anything, to see how do my guys ask those questions, and how does this person we're interviewing respond to those questions? Do they get a little defensive? Are they open to questions and answers and maybe different ways of doing things? Because sometimes those conversations, I'm sitting there, the conversations start taking off.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is the one, right? Good ideas, meshing with other ideas, not afraid for their stuff to be questioned, open to different things. Maybe they showed our guys something. Oh man, we can incorporate that, right? So the personality fit and the philosophy fit. There's the biggest thing, especially for coaches. I think so many people, I'm going to hire, the hot coordinator, or I'm going to hire, this guy's coached all these All-Americans. He must be a great coach, and they're paying him a whole bunch of money. I'm going to try to steal that guy because he's been a good recruiter. If we don't get along as a staff, first and foremost, our jobs are in jeopardy, right? But second of all, and I'm a firm believer in this, the players can tell if the staff is on the same page or not.
Right. Yep.
If we're not on the same page and we don't respect each other and we're not working together, how in the world can we get these teenagers and early 20s to do what we want them to do?
In terms of, if you just had an opportunity, you could really shake rooms. And that's what we're trying to do, you know?
Right. Well, your job is to find leaders, right? Is to find the leadership qualities in an individual, of course, to match it to a program, a university. The question I have for you, though, is who are the leaders? Who are the best leaders that you've been around, and what are a couple things that they've given you? And I know that you've been around some incredible leaders.
I have. Let me think a little bit, because I think exactly like you talked about, leadership is an ever evolving thing. And I think what makes a really impactful leader is someone that can actually adapt their leadership style to the scenario or the situation that they're in. And so throughout different times in my life, I've been exposed to different leadership styles that allow you in a way to create your own style that's like a blend of all of them. So the top leaders that really come to mind first is going to be my head coach, at UCF, Todd Bowles, because the way that he had us focused on details. I mean, this was at a time where, when you send an email, everyone has to respond okay. And I just used to think emails were kind of getting popular, but I just used to think, I got the email. I got it. I got the email. But he was like, no, you have to respond to the email. Or just the way we had to be lined up, the way we had to present ourselves. I mean, you really started to take pride in your appearance and the way that you represented yourself when you were traveling or people saw you. And so the way that Todd was really able to get us to commit to a process without asking questions. Because the other thing was, I'll never forget it was either my sophomore or my junior year, but we were going through some transition on a change. We were losing a lot of leadership on the team. And so our coach, Todd, was really big about not asking questions. I don't want people talking back. So everyone on the staff, from strength coaches to advisors, you could not talk back to anyone. You just had to say, okay, and move forward with it. And so some may think of that as restrictive, but what I saw it as is a submission to discipline of just, you want to make sure you're committed. You want to make sure you're disciplined, where even when things get hectic, you're so disciplined and committed to your foundation that it doesn't shake you. And so that was a great introduction into what confidence looks like. So moving from there, having someone like Kimya Massey, for example, who's now at Oregon State, he was really instrumental because being my director of academics, he's known me since I was 18 and now I'm 29. So he's known me for over 10 years. And the way his leadership style comes from powerful questioning. So I'm not going to tell you yay or nay, but I'm just going to ask you questions that get you to reflect and you to think about, is this the right decision that I need to be making? And how do I move forward from here? So even when I'm recruiting people, to your point, sometimes people really want you to sell them on an opportunity. And don't get me wrong, I'm going to sell it to you. I'm going to make it make sense. But what I try to do is give you information to make an informed decision. Because when I close a search, I go back to my house. When I close a search with you, you're now inheriting all those great things and problems that may be there as a head coach. And so I want you to feel confident about the decision you've made. I never want somebody to turn around and say, DeLaina made me apply for this job and it's nothing what I thought it was going to be. And so I just try to ask questions of, based on where you see yourself in your career, based on what this institution is communicating to me that they're looking for, do you see this as something that really aligns with you personally, professionally, financially, all of those kind of things?
Up through the ranks, I tried to work hard and earn everything I did. I never wanted to be hired just because I'm African American, but at the same time, I did not want to not be hired because I was an African American, and that was big for me. And you have to keep your core values and believe in who you are. And I tried to work to be the best coach, not the best head coach, not the best coordinator, not the best DB coach, but the best coach in whatever capacity that was. And the biggest thing for me was to always learn and to always listen. And when you can listen, you learn more not to do than what to do. So I always tried to learn and listen, and that's what got me where I am right now.
The legendary Coach Jon Gordon. I'd like for you to just take a moment to talk about that relationship and
and really what you learn from him over the years.
Yeah. Well, you don't have enough time for that.
Right.
But I'll tell you, it's interesting when you were just reading about the bio and stuff like that in my past. It's so that in how I process that when I hear those things is a direct correlation to being under his mentorship. Because honestly, he could have cared less that he won 10 national championships in 12 years. It just was not his definition of success. It wasn't what he wanted to be known for in his leadership. He would always say, just remember, you're not coaching X's and O's, you're coaching young people's hearts. And I think that the better you do that, that it is, people think, oh, when you care about their hearts, that means you don't care about basketball, or you don't care about winning or being competitive or excellence. You know, that's just further from the truth. If you really love a group of people and you're really trying to coach young people's hearts, then you want them to learn to be their best. The standards don't decrease or lower, they increase because you love them so much that you don't want to let them settle for anything less than their best and a level of excellence that you know that they're capable of creating. And so I think that, you know, even when you're saying, you know, I'm thankful for all those things, and I don't like just, you know, pass them off, but it's just not the definition of my success and or failure in whichever case. And I've had plenty of those as well. But Coach Wooden, it always started with relationships. It always started with coaching people's hearts. And whenever someone wanted to talk about who his top 5 players were of all time or what the best guards were, he didn't want to talk about that. What he would talk about is what a fine husband and father they ended up being, or a pastor of a church, or a teacher, that whatever they ended up doing to fulfill their passions and purpose in this world, he wanted to talk about that way more than he ever wanted to talk about championships or statistics while they were under his supervision. But anyone who knew him or watched his practices, they knew that, I mean, there was an attention to detail. There was a process of excellence that was unwavering. And so, you know, I don't think that it's just a byproduct. The success and the championships and the NBA, or in my case, conference championships or NCAA tournaments, those are just a byproduct. And they're really not my true purpose. Yeah, another, if you love leadership book, I bet you've read this one, but Inside Out Coaching, you're either a transformational coach or you're a transactional coach. And to me, Coach Wooden was the most powerful transformational coach. And he really believed that, you know, through transforming habits, transforming teamworks, building through the pyramid of success, that to this day is one of the most widely used motivational tools in business, let alone in sports, that by doing that, the wins would take care of themselves.
It's trust, right? It's that consistency. It's the ability to show them a vision with, like you said, blindly, basically.
Right.
That leads back to faith, and it leads back to, you know, the way you treat people and first impressions. I mean, there are, like I said, those things that really add up quickly. But it is that transparency piece as well. And I think that's what I've really enjoyed getting to know you and a lot of coaches, is you have to be transparent. Same way with when I'm working with people and I'm talking with them about how to use their money, right, in an impactful way, right? There's a level of trust and transparency there that you have to have from the day you meet them, and keep it going. You know, you can't be inconsistent. It's just, you've got to be, you know, sort of that level-headed, positive, calm person. But like you said, also know when you got to kick it up in gear and get things done. So it's definitely a balance game.
I'm high directive, high supportive. You know, I've got a lot of energy. You know, I've been an athletic director at Division 1, 2, and 3. So NCAA 1, 2, and 3. And I didn't go into it saying, okay, I want to have all divisions. I want to be an athletic director, all areas. Right. No. I had an opportunity at Division 3. I talked a little bit about that. And it just happened. It just kind of flowed that way. But I had some great mentors, some great people who touched my life and quite frankly said, hey, do the best you can. Do the best of the job that you're currently in. And make sure people understand what you're doing and articulate that and communicate that. So for me, you know, from driving the Zamboni and ice, you know, doing the ice to doing the lines at the field or whatever. So I've been doing a lot of that. And I'm not saying I know it all, but I've been in a lot of different jobs So when we're working together as teammates, and I look at the folks that work for me or with me, just that, they work with me, not for me. We work together. It's a family atmosphere. So that level of attention to detail and energy, I need to bring that. But I also like to give people the autonomy to be able to do their job. I want to hire good people and let them do a good job. So I take it from a coaching perspective. That's what you get with me, who's been a student athlete and a coach. You know, my job as a coach is to put my people in the proper position to be successful. Okay, so I'm going to hire those people, the head coach or administrator, whatever, and you're going to do it. And you're going to come to me when you need something, when you need a tweak, when you need some thought process. So my people see that. Sometimes it does frustrate them a tad in the sense, well, you really let me do this. This is fantastic. But, you know, I do need a little bit of instruction to be able to do it. Well, if you need that, you know, in our one-on-one conversations and others, I will do that. But I really try to point out people who are self-starters, who've got energy for it, who are passionate, who don't cut corners, don't compromise standards. And I bring them in and I say, hey, I gave you this. You know, like Barry Alvarez used to say to me all the time, you went to handling school. Well, go handle that. Go make it happen. You're going to probably make a mistake. That's okay. All right? But as long as I'm there to be able to kind of course correct, how are you going to learn if you don't do? You got to do. So I think these are real critical issues. So I'm that guy that, okay, I'm going to let you do it. If you make a mistake, if I see something down the line from a situational management issue or situational issue that, you know, I've got some experience in, I say, you know, you might want to be looking at this, and this, because this is what could happen. So I am that person that likes to be able to sit back and let it lead, but also to give an opportunity to those individuals who are basically have earned.
When you look to add a coach or a staff member to your team, what is it? What is it that you look for? What are the things that are important to you before you bring someone onto your bus?
First of all, I think this is the hardest thing we all do. I think hiring is so hard. And there's all this data about, in general, most companies get it right about 30% of the time. So none of us have figured it out fully. And there's so much hiring going on right now, right? But I'm very intentional about hiring because I understand, because I'm very obsessive around like the people and the culture. So I have a few thoughts on that. I mean, the first is that when it's a hire I'm making, I always develop a profile. And the profile tends to be around competencies and experiences. That's kind of the starting place of the profile. So what kind of experience for a coaching position, sometimes at a certain point in time with a certain head coach, I may have to really, because of other reasons before or something, have to go get a head coach. But sometimes I might have in my profile a flexibility of having an assistant coach. Sometimes I might be willing to look at somebody that hasn't coached at this level, but has coached at another level, but meets other kind of factors in the profile, like regional ties or, you know, something with recruiting that we can demonstrate they're going to figure that out, or the access they would have to build the staff. So there's all these components that we look at when it comes to profile. But to me, talent alone and the resume and the experience alone is totally overrated.
Right.
Right. And so that's great. And you have to have a discipline to that. It's really important. But I combine that with an evaluation of somebody's commitment and alignment with our purpose. So at the University of Washington Athletic Department exists for the development of students. So we're going to hire people that actually align with that purpose. And there's ways you can vet that and test that. You can actually tell pretty quickly in conversations about what motivates people, but there's certain questions you can ask and certain research you can do. And then the second thing, it's our purpose and it's also our behaviors. So we have a set of core values that are inherent to the culture of the place. Really, it's like grittiness, you know, a humility to us, a service mindset, and a growth mindset, innovation. That's very much Seattle. That's University of Washington. When you study successful teams, leaders, coaches in our history of time, people that embody and display those behaviors always tend to have very good results. So we really look for people that care about those things. So if you're like somebody that doesn't like to be a little bit more understated and it's a cultural thing, this place can be really hard for you, but you could be great someplace else. So like that alignment with purpose and values, if I were an athletic director at a different place, that might be totally different.
Right.
Right. And then the third piece is that's equally as important is just flat out character. Like, are you a good person? Are you going to treat people well? Are you going to do things the right way? Are you going to stand up for others when you need to stand up? Like, what kind of character do you have? And to me, the character and the value alignment work is the hardest part to evaluate. And yet it tends to be the most important part. When you look back and you've seen this, like, look at how many times we look at this where a really successful coach is really great one place, and then he or she goes someplace else and he or she is not anymore. Well, she didn't become, or he didn't become a bad coach. They just didn't get aligned in these other areas. So that's the space that I'm constantly trying to understand. And I've made mistakes on, and I've hit it home runs on. And like, that's the space that I think is most important though. It's really who this person is and how they show up in an organization and a culture that can match kind of what the greater place really stands.
Because we're talking about the energy bus, it's about choosing the right people to get on the bus with you. I think that's got to be one of the keys for success. So when you think about hiring a new staff member, how did you look to identify who will be the best additions to your team?
Well, I think that that self-awareness comes back into play, right? And it's about really taking a look back at yourself as a leader and at your department, your team, whatever it is that you're leading, and really making a true assessment of what's good and what's bad, what's working, what's not working, where are the gaps, and then creating sort of what I'll call a success profile of an individual. To say that, I know for me, a lot of times I don't like dealing in the details. I'm a 30,000 foot picture dreamer.
Right.
And so if I'm looking at an individual, then it's like, okay, I know that I need to look at an individual who has some attention to detail. So those are some of the small things, but the bigger overall picture, Coach, is that I have to have people who understand that it's not about me, it's about we. It's about us. That they really understand and grasp what servant leadership is, and that they understand what we are here to do, but more importantly, who we are here to serve.
Right. When you look back at the young Jon Gordon, you look back at this dude 15, 20 years ago, if you could go back and talk to that guy, right, what would you say to him that he just couldn't get back then, that you know today, that you absolutely know today? What would you say to that guy if you could have a conversation with him?
I would say don't fear it, love it, because love is more powerful than fear. And anything you try to build with fear will crumble. But if you build it with love, that will endure. And love casts out fear. So the minute you focus on love, fear will dissipate. So don't fear the outcome. Just love the journey, love the process, love the moment, love the battle, love the competition, love all of it. And if you focus on love, fear has no power over you. And then you become a powerful force in the world when you have that love moving through you and you're sharing that with others. Pavarotti, the famous opera singer, said everybody wants the audience to love them, but I love the audience. You know what? Love the audience, love people, love the moment, love that opportunity that you have to make a difference.